will be the same as doing business in Europe. Our mission is to advocate for EU businesses in Georgia and also facilitate the trade between Georgia and Europe. The DCFTA has a lot of advantages to businesses in Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine, but is not yet fully utilized. The DCFTA can have an advantage now to mitigate some of the disruptive effects from the COVID-19. Implementing this project, we do together also with the help of EBA Moldova and the EBA of Ukraine and other associations. This is a public-private dialogue. The result of this public-private dialogue will be a position paper which will give the voice from the private sector and which will be distributed to EU and governments. This project will help evidence-based policy making, which will improve business environment in all the countries which are involved. Quickly say thanks first to the GIZ. I would like to thank for this opportunity. Also for the Ministry of Economic for the contribution in implementing DCFTA. All respondents who are participated in our surveys, the participants of the private sector meeting, which was held last week, also of course the participants of today's discussion, team members of the project, and especially our partners from Moldova and Ukraine. Also our member Sky High for organizing this Zoom meeting, and Kreba for the translation. I would now like to give the word for his introduction to Mr. Dominic Pappenheim from EU Delegation. Dominic?
Yes, thank you very much, John, for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the European Union delegation, I would also like to welcome you to this public-private dialogue and thank very much the EBA for setting that up and the GIZ for sponsoring the project and implementing this important project. Just to mention that I'll start with saying that Corona has not abolished previous challenges. I think on the contrary, it has made many challenges more pressing. Under the guidance of the association agreement and deep and comprehensive free trade area, the EU was working with Georgia on making Georgia's economy more resilient and on moving to more sustainable, environmental friendly patterns of production and consumption. With our partners from the Georgian government, we were and we are working on a wide range of different topics, such as e-commerce and digital connectivity, on occupational safety, on health standards, on a modern labor code. We provide support to public procurement. We provide support to the competition agency in order to ensure fair competition. We back the new energy efficiency legislation. Under a number of projects, we are helping SMEs in upgrading their businesses and integrate themselves into profitable value chains. We have a number of access to finance programs ongoing where SMEs can access loans for their businesses. We were already working on these, but Corona has made these challenges even more urgent and added a new dimension which is not in the DCFTA and in the association agreement, that is the economic recovery dimension. In order to cope with the new dimension, there was a need to change the support programs, the EU Georgia support programs, and restructure the ongoing programs to the new realities. But I think that the main topics of the association agreement and the DCFTA, they remain they remain relevant, or even they have become more relevant than ever. To respond to this new dimension of economic recovery and also to respond to the urgency, the EU has mobilized this year additional funding. In total, we have mobilized 250 million euros in grants and 115 million in loans, plus access to our regional funding, which makes up around 1.5 billion lari of total support. That's one of the highest level of assistance per capita from the EU in the world. However, it's very clear to us that these funds will only have an impact with an active uptake from the private sector. And that's why we rely very much on your contribution to this. I'm very much looking forward to your analysis and your recommendations and to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dominic. It's an interesting time for Georgia with the huge challenges of the coronavirus, but we believe very strongly that DCFTA offers, in part, a solution to the recovery of the economy. I'm now going to ask our next speaker, Anne Bersiel, to speak. She is the head of projects for support of a deep and comprehensive free trade agreement in Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, and she represents GIZ. Anne, please.
Hello, welcome everybody. I hope that all the translation issues are now settled and you can hear me well. It's my honor to greet you on behalf of GIZ, of German Technical Assistance, and as it was mentioned already by previous speakers, this is a project which is focusing on the 3 DCFTAs. So we have activities ongoing in Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia, and I'm happy that this is already now the second public-private dialogue event that we are organizing with the help of EBA. The first one took part very successfully, I can say, 2 days ago in Ukraine, or virtually everywhere. So let me briefly outline a little bit why we are meeting and why this project actually was set up. So for us, German technical assistance, when COVID-19 reached Georgia and the whole region of Eastern Partnership in March, very fast we were asked to completely re-steer all activities that we have, and our commissioning ministry, German Federal Ministry of Development Cooperation, asked for quick responses on supporting our partners in coordinated COVID-19 response. But of course, as we are operating under a regional fund for public administration reform, what can we do? We cannot engage in health protection and also procuring health protection equipment is not so easy. So what we decided then to do we decided to, on the one hand, reach out to everybody concerned, to the economic operators, to those concerned with this crisis, to collect the opinions on how they are individually hit and what they are expecting, what challenges they are expecting. And this was done by other actors as well, especially there were many surveys also done in Ukraine and in Moldova. I was aware, so we from the very start, we thought that it would make sense to connect this and to aggregate it one step higher, namely to search for ideas and references and on what is needed by the economic operators in exactly this situation, and how a potentially updated DCFTA could help to be prepared for the upcoming economic challenges. So we cooperated then with EBA, and luckily it worked out well that you conducted in all three countries hundreds of surveys from economic operated, but also from business associations. And we are now looking forward to the 3 policy papers and to the broad discussion, and to these policy papers being presented to the public officials as well. So I do not want to spoil here, but I already sneaked in and had a look into the draft policy paper for Georgia, and there are really interesting features which we will hear and which we will be presented. Just from my side, especially interesting three things. The first thing is that already now we can see that those businesses and economic operators who already comply with the provisions of the DCFTA seem to be better off now in terms of crisis, in the times of crisis. This is something very, very promising, maybe also. Second thing was that full utilization and full potential of the DCFTA, also with regard to third country trade possibilities, are not really revealed and used fully. This was one of the findings, I guess, and we will hear about this in more details. And then, of course, what we need to discuss and we need to further have our focus on are the shortcomings that the survey reveals, and here most striking, the number points 1 and 2 in this list for me were really interesting. The second biggest obstacle being the quality infrastructure, so everything which hinders to overcome technical barriers to trade. Here definitely also with support of technical assistance, a lot can be achieved. And number one obstacle, obviously also very, very challenging, but also something which is now more in the focus than before COVID, is the low-skilled workforce that was outlined by the surveys. So here, I hope we get into a constructive discussion. I'm already very happy to see that there's such a big interest also from the public side. And I really invite you to all stay online in the event until all the findings of the survey will be presented. Maybe in Ukraine they did it in a smarter way. They first presented and then let the public officials speak, but I'm sure Georgian public officials are patient and they will stay with us. So I wish us all good and constructive discussion, and hope that this will contribute after COVID-19 to a full-fledged utilization of DCA as part of an intensified multilateralism, because this is clear. We cannot engage in more protectionist measures. We should use these DCFTAs that we have at hand and make them part of multilateral European trade policy. And as it was maybe put by one high EU official last week in a similar meeting on a similar topic, the post-COVID-19 European trade policy, she said, do not put all the eggs in one basket, even if it stands at home. So in this sense, I wish us a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt everybody. Thank you very much, Anne, for this, but my apologies. We have some small issues with the translation in Georgian. The interpreter, if they could quickly stop and have a quick call to our service provider. And within 5 minutes, we hope it is solved. For the moment, we can go on, but the translator will be now for 2 minutes out and we will restart there. David, up to you.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is David Tengiz, who is the chairperson of the Committee on European Integration and is a member of Parliament. David, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. First of all, hello to everybody, and thank you very much for organizing this very important meeting. And I would like to thank to the all participants and wish you all of you, first of all, to stay health. As far as for today, it is the most important part, and that follows all the points. This is a very important topic, and I would like to thank you for that, to raising this topic and discussing the topic. As you know, a few weeks ago, our committee started committee inquiry regarding the challenges of entering for the SME sector on the EU market, and so I'm happy that I'm seeing some of the people participating in the committee inquiry also in this also today. And this is one of the most important part for the country to benefit from benefit from DCFTA, and unfortunately, actually, of course, for year-over-year export in European markets from Georgia is increasing, but we still have a concern that it is not covering and it is not enough the advantage we're getting today from this agreement, and it is not only for referring not only for COVID pandemic situation, but also even before. That's why we started committee inquiry for the challenges for SME sector, what kind of challenges they're facing or entering on the EU market, and it is very interesting feedback and activities we have from this inquiry. But we already had a hearing of the private sector and had hearing of the public sector as well, government and some other governmental bodies, and we're on the part to working with the expert right now to writing the recommendations and to summarize all the pre-work we made for that, and we of course would be happy to share this to you as well, as far as we see and we feel how important it is for the country, and unfortunately we're not using all the benefit of this agreement and how we can use it till the end. As far as the potential of the agreement is very high, and today we're meeting the different kind of challenges for the market. I would like to once again to thank you for this for organizing of this event, and we fully support this. Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. We fully support this discussion, and we'll be pretty much happy to get the recommendations how we as a parliament would be benefit from the results of this discussion, and as far as from our side, from the committee inquiry side, I want to say that we see some initiatives that might be very beneficial for the private sector. Also, the initiatives from the government was very interesting to have kind of public-private partnership initiatives, and the oversight part of the parliament will be used to of course to follow up all the recommendations that from our side will be from the committee inquiry and from this gathering as well. We would appreciate pretty much to share somehow at the end the summary of the meeting and be involved very actively for the recommendations after this initiative. As far as we fully support that the CFTA benefit from the CFTA should be used very well, and up to now it is still gaps to see to get it as far as it might be from the private sector or public sector. This gap should be covered, and thank you much once again for the initiative you made right now.
Thank you, Dinimad Lobodato. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's great to see the support that we're getting from Parliament. I mean, that is going to be essential if this is going to work. I'd like to call, please, on our next speaker at the moment, Mariam Gabunia, who is the head of the Department of Foreign Trade Policy at the Ministry of Economy in Georgia. So, Mariam, if you're ready, please could you start speaking?
Yes, thank you. So, as we have some problems in Georgian translation, I will do my intervention in English. So first of all, I would like to thank on behalf of the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia, I would like to thank the organizers for the organization of such an interesting and useful discussion. And let me emphasize that effective implementation of the association agreement, including the DCFTA, stays high on the government's agenda. And we have many successes during the implementation process. As you know, by September 1, there will be 6 years after the entering into force of the agreement, and we have many successes in that direction. Of course, there are a lot of challenges because the DCFTA envisages the approximation of Georgia's legislation to the EU acquis in many directions and trade-related spheres. And some of them are quite sensitive for Georgia and needs a lot of resources and time for the adaptation, especially for the private sector, but not only for private sector, for state institutions also. And in that direction, it is very important the assistance provided by the European Commission and EU Delegation in Georgia. So I would like to thank for all the assistance European Commission is providing to Georgia in the implementation of DCFTA. And I would like to highlight some success stories in the process of DCFTA implementation. And of course, I will talk about the challenges also. First of all, it has to be underlined that DCFTA contributed to enhanced trade with the European Union. And according to the data of 2019, export increased by 13% and amounted over $8 million US. It is significant to highlight that we have successful export of agricultural products as well as industrial products. However, it should be mentioned that due to COVID-19 spread in the 6 months of 2020, as in the whole world, we have decline in the export to the European Union by 21% according to the 6 months data. But still, we very much hope that data will be improved starting from the next year, and it will have the increasing tendency. Despite the worsening trade figures for the first 6 months of 2020, it marks also developments in exporting of number of important Georgian products, such as, let's say, hazelnuts. The export of hazelnuts even doubled this year. Also, we have considerable growth in wine export, let's say 12%, in export of canned fruits and vegetables and many other products. It is important also to note that during the DCFTA implementation, the share of Georgian products in the export to the European Union, I mean export without re-export. So the share of Georgian products is increasing year by year. And let's say if we will compare the situation before the DCFTA and after the DCFTA, before the DCFTA in 2014, the share of Georgian products in the export to the EU was 65%, and now the share is 92%. The share has increased by 27% during the 6 years of implementation of the DCFTA. We have an increasing tendency also with regard of companies exporting to the European Union markets. The number of companies increased by 61% compared to the 2014, and now we have more than 900 companies exporting to the EU market. In order to fully benefit from the DCFTA, we are implementing many reforms in many directions that are SPS, technical barriers to trade, public procurement, and many other fields. And we already have made progress in that direction. And overall, as of today, the 1/3 of EU legal, Georgia has approximated its legislation to the 1/3 of European Union legislation requested by the DCFTA. Our government actively works to support private sector, including SMEs, in order to raise competitiveness and meet new requirements through relevant state institutions, in particular Enterprise Georgia. We always we understand well that the implementation of DCFTA is not an easy thing for the private sector as well as for state institutions. And both of them needs help and assistance in that direction. That's why we have several supporting programs together also with the European Union, and I would like to thank the European Union for the assistance provided to our private sector, especially through different programs and projects. So, but we, as you know, the Enterprise Georgia is an agency under the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, which supports and stimulates growth of Georgian SMEs through use of financial and non-financial instruments and programs, including entrepreneur learning, increased access to finance, business skills development, and others. And in order to raise SMEs' competitiveness and promote exports under the state programs produced in Georgia, during 2019, Enterprise Georgia, in connection with co-financing of loan and leasing percentages, signed about 144 agreements, out of which the 85 were with enterprises and the 59 with hotels, and their total investment value was around 300 million Georgian lari. In order to support Georgian SMEs to increase international sales, Enterprise Georgia co-financed participation of more than 100 Georgian companies in 11 international trade fairs in the European Union, and overall during its existence from 2014 until 2020, the agency co-financed participation of more than 500 Georgian companies. We well understand the challenges that SMEs face during the DCFTA's implementation, and especially now with the COVID-19 spread. So the Enterprise Georgia also has expanded its support mechanisms, particularly for post-pandemic era. More specifically, we focused on loan co-financing mechanism, which is now available for loans starting from 50,000 Georgian lari up to 10 million Georgian lari, and provides co-financing for 36 months instead of previous 24 months. Co-financing amount has also increased. This is a refinancing rate plus 3%. And another mechanism that I want to mention is the credit guarantee mechanism, which is also available for loans starting from 50,000 Georgian lari up to 5 million Georgian lari, and provides 90% collateral guarantee for new loans. With the project, with the EU assistance and under the project Georgia Close to EU, about 24 toy and 10 child clothing manufacture companies received grants up to 15,000 GL each, and previously similar grants were issued for service sector companies like architecture and design, IT, and others. Focusing to provide education for potential and existing exporters, we have dedicated particular attention to promote the online training courses for exporters, which is available through Enterprise Georgia webpage free of charge, and provides all necessary information about the export cycle. Also, we have the training courses for export managers, which is designed for high-ranking export managers, and more than 250 people have been trained through this program over the years. Also, taking into account the fact that almost all international exhibitions have either been cancelled or postponed due to COVID-19, Enterprise Georgia has quickly adopted to this situation. Addressing the challenges, the agency has implemented a number of measures, providing Georgian SMEs with smart alternatives and to replace their physical presence on international events. In this regard, significant number of Enterprise Georgia beneficiaries participated in online showrooms and trade shows from different industries. It should be noted that the period of COVID-19 spread witnessed a dramatic increase in e-commerce. So in that regard, I would like to highlight that the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia has prepared the draft e-commerce legislation. As you know, until now, we do not have such a legislation in place in Georgia. So this draft legislation was prepared, and we very soon will submit it to the Parliament of Georgia for the adoption. In order to support private sector, including SMEs, in accessing the EU market, we are putting a lot of efforts to develop quality infrastructure in line with DCFTA requirements. We already succeeded in that direction, and as you know, in 2017, our accreditation center has gained international European recognition. That means that laboratories accredited by our accreditation center now can issue the internationally recognized certificates of conformity, and that is very important in terms of decreasing the value of products produced in Georgia for exports. Before that, our exporters was forced to receive these services from abroad. That was very costly, you understand, and now they can receive some of the services here locally in Georgia, but we well understand that that is not enough. Not for all products and not for all services. You can obtain the internationally recognized certificates in Georgia, and we are working in that direction to improve this situation and to raise the laboratory capacity of the country. And it is very important to support us in that direction, and we are talking with many donor organizations and also with the European Commission in order to get support in that direction. So one of the important reform that also is very important for the SMEs is the market surveillance reform. We are implementing this market surveillance reform in line with the DCFTA obligations, and we are starting the market surveillance, already started the market surveillance for some of the products, and year by year we will add new products to that list. So, and in January 2020, we have established the new market surveillance agency, which is now responsible solely for market surveillance on industrial products and the capacity, and we very much appreciate the assistance of the European Union in the capacity building of the agency staff. So, and we are implementing these reforms and pay particular attention to some of the products like the construction materials. That is very important for Georgian market, toys and other things. So, and another field important and quite sensitive for Georgia is the SPS field, food safety legislation. And we are approximating our legislation to the EU sanitary and phytosanitary acquis. And we are working very hard in order to open the EU market for Georgian animal origin products. And we have few success stories in that direction, such as honey, black sea fish, wool, and treated hide. You can export already those animal origin products to the European Union markets. The work is almost finalized with regard of the pet food. And very soon the formal procedures are left, and Georgia will be included in the list of third countries authorized to export pet food to the European Union. And we also are working for the recognition of aquaculture sector in that direction, and many other products that are on our list. So it is very important to have the very active public awareness campaign on DCFTA implementation challenges and benefits, and we pay particular attention to that direction. We are organizing many business roundtables in the regions of Georgia in order to raise the awareness, especially of business sector, of the challenges and upcoming sensitive legislation, and for better informational coverage of population. With the support of European Union and particularly GIZ, we have launched the DCFTA Gov.G web portal, where you can find all DCFTA related information, starting from legislation and implementation plans and reports, and everything that is related to the DCFTA implementation. And it is important to highlight the one feature of this DCFTA web page. All draft legislation that is stemming out from the DCFTA requirements is posted on this portal to receive the comments and suggestions from all interested parties, including the business sector. And only after that, we pass the draft legislation to the government and then to the parliament. That is an established practice, but unfortunately, it has to be highlighted that our business sector is not very active in that direction, and mostly we receive comments on the draft legislation only from the non-governmental organizations and not from the private sector. And I very much hope that that this will be improved year by year, and the private sector will be more involved on the draft stage of.
Mariam, can I take you up on that last point, please? Because,
yes, sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because actually, we have many members with us today, and they've been very active in responding to our questionnaire. In particular, I think it would be good to hear someone who is actually acting at the moment. I remember Deutsche Basalt Fiber, Georgi is here, actually speaking from Germany. So would you like to give us just a couple of minutes, please, of your response now, please, Georgi?
Yeah, thank you very much again, David, for introduction. Thank you also to Ms. Kabunia for the long introduction about the DCFTA. I would like to introduce myself very shortly, not to take a lot of time from you. We are the Georgian German company, which is mostly dealing with the basalt fibers in Germany and in Georgia, both. And we are trying to get in different markets and participating very much on the DCFTA between Georgia and Germany, all in the EU. We export products from Georgia to the European Union countries and behalf, and vice versa. We also get some products from Germany to Georgia. So this is very great possibility for such a company as we are, and we are very actively in the industrial market, construction market in Georgia especially, but in the composites and automotive industry in the German market. So what can I say about the DCFTA? It is a very great possibility, which is, as already mentioned, used very poorly at the moment because of the low awareness in the local companies. And there are some reasons for that. It has been mentioned, it has been mentioned that the awareness, to raise the awareness, there have been done some work, so it is a very great step. And also a very important thing, which I was now writing down from Ms. Mariam Gabunia about the quality testing facilities. Well, I cannot speak about the agricultural products and the tourism industry. I'm speaking from the construction industry. I think one of the biggest way to motivate the private sector from the construction segment is to get them possibility to put their products which are produced in Georgia for the tenders in the country. And that's why we need facilities which are going to qualify the products for the tenders or for the Georgian market. And for that, we need quality testing facilities. And I don't know how deep the work has been already done by the agencies so far, but the construction segment has different products which has been successfully produced in Georgia, not only paintings, insulation materials, reinforcement materials, but all these products need to be unifiedly tested, and lots of effort should be put in the testing facilities, because this is the argument when to export the product in the European Union. It is the quality measurement, but first step should be done in the national market. The second and very important thing is to go so far. It is the possibility of the cheap money. That means to get a loan from the banks with affordable situations. I know that Enterprise in Georgia has done some programs, which is very good step towards that. But I think more efforts to make possible for the entrepreneurs to get the cheap money to activate their possibilities to develop their products for the national market and for the European market will be the most important.
Georgi,
yes.
Georgi, I hate to do this because it's fascinating, but I want to just cut you off here because I want to move on, because I think you've made two really important points and I want to just stress those, okay? The first one was we must get this standards testing in place and the access to cheap finance, because that's what we're seeing time and time and time again. If I can, and I apologize for this, it's just we only have so much time. Thank you so much. DBF are really out there as a pioneer in what we're trying to achieve here under DCFTA.
David, maybe one last thing.
Yeah,
I'm very sorry.
Please go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Also, towards the COVID-19, yes, of course, this is a very difficult situation, not only for Georgia, also for lots of countries which is in the situation. But on the other side, I want to put inside that this is a possibility for countries and companies to place products, because the crisis means always changing. And when the doors are closed, the new doors are opening. So we have to use the Georgian companies and German companies to place their product, because now the market is difficult, but also there's a possibilities to place new products, and especially from Georgia. This is the last thing which I want to put inside.
Thanks for coming back at me, and I would emphasize that as well. Strategically, there's no question. At the end of a crisis is the biggest opportunity. I completely endorse what you say. Now is the time to hit the European market with Georgian products, because everyone is either out of stock or they're ready for change or they're looking for something different. Completely agree with you. Now we're going to move on now back into the government again to Mamuka Baratashvili. He is the first deputy head of the Revenue Service, the Ministry of Finance. Mamuka, are you ready to speak?
წელი მოგეხსენებათ აღმოჩნდა განსაკუთრებული გამოწვევის სავსე, როგორც ევროკავშირის წევრი ქვეყნისთვის, ისე საქართველოსთვის, მთელი დანარჩენი სამყაროსთვის. აღნიშნული განპირობებული იყო მოგეხსენებათ კორონავირუსით, რომელიც გავრცელდა მსოფლიო პანდემიის გამო და მსოფლიოს სხვადასხვა ქვეყნების მთავრობების მიერ პანდემიასთან ბრძოლაში გამოყენებული ზოგიერთი შეზღუდვები წინაპირად დააწვა საერთაშორისო ვაჭრობის მიწოდების ჯაჭვს. საბაჟო ადმინისტრაციების წინაშე მწვავედ დადგა საქართველოს სავაჭრო პარტნიორების საბაჟო ადმინისტრაციებთან უფრო მეტად დინამიური და კოორდინირებული თანამშრომლობის საჭიროება და მიზანშეწონილი გახდა, რომ ჩვენ არსებული სიტუაციიდან გამოსავლის ძიების მიზნით ეს კოორდინაცია გახდა აუცილებელი. სწორედ ამ მიზნით და COVID-19 პანდემიის პირობებში ვაჭრობის ხელშეწყობისა და ზოგადად საზოგადოებისთვის მდგომარეობის შემსრულების მიზნით ევროკავშირის კომისიის და საბაჟო საგადასახადო გაერთიანების გენერალურმა დირექტორატმა ტაქსუდმა ჯერ კიდევ პანდემიის ადრეულ პერიოდში მიმართა DCFTA-ის ხელშემწყობილ სახელმწიფოებს და სხვადასხვა სახის ინიციატივებით, რაც მიმართული იყო ბიზნესისთვის უფრო ხელსაყრელი გარემოს ფორმირებისთვის და სასაზღვრო საბაჟო პროცედურების გამარტივების მიზნით. როგორც თქვენთვის ცნობილია, ასოცირების შეთანხმება და კერძოდ მისი ნაწილი DCFTA მიზნად ისახავს დაახლოებას ხელშეკრულებული სახელმწიფოების საკანონმდებლო და რეგულაციური ბაზა ევროკავშირში. აღნიშნული მისწრაფება უკვე თავის მხრივ წარმოადგენს მნიშვნელოვან ბერკეტს ევროკავშირის ბაზარზე ინტეგრაციისთვის და აძლევს მოვაჭრეებს საშუალებას იმოქმედონ მსგავს სამართლებრივ გარემოში. ექსპორტიორებს ეძლევათ საშუალება მოახდინონ საკუთარი ბიზნეს პროცესის ადაპტირება ევროკავშირის ბაზარზე შესვლის პროცედურებთან და სამართლებრივ მოთხოვნებთან. თუმცა როგორც ვნახეთ, COVID-19-მა ახალი გამოწვევები შექმნა ამ დინამიკაში და მოითხოვა ახალი მიდგომები და გადაწყვეტილებები პანდემიის შედეგებთან გასამკლავებლად. შემოსავლების სამსახურმა, რომელიც გახლავთ საბაჟო სანიტარული და ფიტოსანიტარული ადმინისტრაცია, ევროკავშირის მოწოდების შესაბამისად დანერგა რამდენიმე პროცედურა და მიდგომა, როგორც საბაჟო საზღვარზე, ისე გაფორმების პროცედურებთან მიმართებაში, რომელიც მიზნად ისახავს ევროკავშირთან იმპორტისა და ექსპორტის ოპერაციებს განახორციელებელი ბიზნეს შეუქმნას უსაფრთხო და გამარტივებული გარემო. ეს პროცედურები მოიცავდა საბაჟო გამსხვილებებზე სპეციალურად გადამზადებული და შესაბამისად მომზადებული სანიტარულ უსაფრთხოებაზე პასუხისმგებელი პირების დანიშვნას, რომლებსაც დაევალათ შესაბამისი შემოქმედის განხორციელება, საზოგადოებრივი ჯანდაცვის მიზნების უზრუნველყოფისათვის, კერძოდ განისაზღვრა სპეციალური საკარანტინო პროცედურები, რომლებიც გავრცელდა სატვირთო ტრანსპორტის სკოლებზე, რამაც თავიდან აგვაცილა საზღვრიდან დაავადების გავრცელება. შეგვინარჩუნა წვიწყუნის ნაკადი მაღალი ნიშნულზე და თავისუფლ გაცილებით უფრო ხელმისაწვდომი გახადა პანდემიის პირობებში მოსახლეობისთვის კრიტიკულად მნიშვნელოვანი პროდუქტის მიწოდება. დაინერგა ახალი და განახლებული დისტანციური ელექტრონული სერვისები, ბიზნესისა და საბაჟო საგადასახადო ადმინისტრაციას შორის პირისპირ კონტაქტის შემცირებისა და დროის დაზოგვის მიზნით. საუკეთესო საერთაშორისო პრაქტიკის გაზიარებით შემუშავებული იქნა და ამოქმედა თანამშრომლობა დისტანციური მუშაობისა და კრიტიკულად საჭირო თანამშრომლობის სპეციალური სამუშაო განრიგები, რომლებიც უზრუნველყოფენ სოციალურ დისტანცირებას და რაც თავის მხრივ ასევე აუცილებელია საზოგადოებრივი ჯანდაცვის მიზნებისთვის. COVID-19 დამაზიანებელი ეფექტის შემცირების მიზნით გატარებული ღონისძიებებიდან განსაკუთრებით აღსანიშნავია აქსუდის მიერ შეღავათიანი წარმოშობის წესების ხმელეთ შუა ზღვის რეგიონალური კონვენციის სამდინოს მიერ შემუშავებული სპეციალური გამარტივებული წესები პროდუქციის წარმოშობის განსაზღვრის ფორმალობების კუთხით. თავისუფალი ვაჭრობის რეჟიმის შეხერხებების გარეშე უზრუნველსაყოფად კონვენციის წევრი სახელმწიფოების მიმართ რეკომენდაცია გახლავთ დაეშვათ გამონაკლისები ფორმალობებთან მიმართებაში, კერძოდ ნებადაერთო იმპორტიორს წარმოიდგინა შეღავათიანი წარმოშობის სერტიფიკატის ევროვერტის ელექტრონული ასლი, შესაბამისად უფრო ფართო აღიარება მიენიჭა საინფორმაციო ტექნოლოგიების სისტემებზე დაფუძნებულ გაცემულ სერტიფიკატებს, ასევე მოხდა შეთანხმება საბაჟო ადმინისტრაციებს შორის წარმოშობის სერტიფიკატის გადამოწმების პროცესში ურთიერთთანამშრომლობის განსაკუთრებულ პროცედურებზე ფორმალობების დაჩქარების მიზნით და ბიზნესისთვის გახარჯული დროის შესამცირებლად. აღსანიშნავია ეს გარემოებაც, რომ სწორედ პანდემიის პერიოდში მოხდა საქართველოსა და უკრაინას რესპუბლიკას შორის თავისუფალი ვაჭრობის შეთანხმებაში ცვლილებების ოფნის რატიფიცირება, რაც საშუალებას მისცემს ქართულ და უკრაინელ მეწარმეებს ისარგებლონ შეღავათიანი წარმოშობის წესების აღნიშნული კონვენციის ძალაში შესვლის პროცედურების დასრულების შემდეგ. აღნიშნული კიდევ უფრო გაზრდის ქართულ და უკრაინული ბიზნესისთვის კონკურენტულ უპირატესობას ევროკავშირის ბაზარზე ხელმისაწვდომი მასალებისა და საბოლოო პროდუქციის არჩევანის თვალსაზრისით. სწორედ ამ სახის თანამშრომლობა, საზოგადოების უსაფრთხოება და ჯანდაცვა, ეკონომიკური განვითარება და ბიზნესის ხელშეწყობის საფუძველზე DCFTA-ის შეთანხმების კუთხით წარმოადგენს მოგეხსენება და შეთანხმების საფუძველზე შექმნილი სამართლებრივი ჩარჩო და საბაჟო ადმინისტრაციების მუდმივი ბიზნესისთვის უფრო ხელსაყრელი პირობების შესაქმნელად, ასევე შეღავათიანი რეჟიმის ცხომადი ევროკავშირის ბაზარი გვაძლევს საუკეთესო შესაძლებლობას გავუმკლავდეთ COVID-19-ის მიერ შექმნილ გამოწვევებს. შემოსავლების სამსახური კვლავ არის მოისმინოს ბიზნესის შეხედულებები და მოსაზრებები არსებული სირთულეებისადმი, რომელიც ბიზნესს აქვს პანდემიის გამო, რომელიც წარმოექმნათ ექსპორტიორებს და ევროკავშირის თითოეულ საბაჟო ადმინისტრაციასთან და DCFTA-ის ხელშეკრულების სხვა სახელმწიფოებთან და საბაჟო ადმინისტრაციებთან თანამშრომლობის მექანიზმების გამოყენებით დაარეგულიროს ეს საკითხი. მიუხედავად ამ სირთულეებისა, რომელიც წინაშე დგას როგორც ბიზნესი, ისე ზოგადად საზოგადოება, DCFTA გვაძლევს საშუალებას აქცენტი გავაკეთოთ მუდმივ თვით განვითარებაზე, ხარისხობრივ გაუმჯობესებაზე, ინოვაციური მიღწევების დანერგაზე და შევქმნათ ვაჭრობის ხელშეწყობის გაუმჯობესებული ფაზა, წარსული გაკვეთილების გათვალისწინებით დასაკვირვებლად.
Thank you very much. It's great to see that the detail work, which is essential, the work to make sure that we can do this because we have the right legislation and the right tax is in place. Thank you very much, Georgi. Okay, guys, it's show time. This is why most of us, I think, are here. We're really waiting for. It is the results of our survey, and for that we have Tengiz. I do hope Tengiz is here. So, Tengiz, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Just a moment. I'm going to share my screen. Moment. Guram, could you allow me to share my screen, please?
Yeah, just 1 minute. We're starting it out now.
It's already allowed.
Yes, thank you very much. So, thank you everyone for such a very good introductions and extensive overview of the activities around the CFTA and its role towards the overcoming the obstacles that the COVID-19 created. I'm really happy to see such a great and high-level representation and extensive representation. And I also noticed there are many people who we already talked to during our research phase, survey phase. So let's see. Let's hope that this event contributes to the productive solutions of solution to some of the outstanding problems. So I'm going to speak. The presentation itself has it's not very long, but it has 6 different small chapters or parts. So first, I'll speak shortly about the project itself. Then I'll speak about the experience of disruptions during COVID-19, the disruption that companies faced during especially during the lockdown phase. Then we'll discuss the general findings in terms of in relation of DCFTA as an instrument to tackle COVID-19 outcomes. Next, we'll speak about the opportunities, the known opportunities, but with the reflections of COVID-19 results. Then we'll discuss the obstacles. Some of them are new, some of them have been already known to many of you. And finally, we'll present our recommendations, which comprise big part of the position paper that EBA is drafting and is planning to publish soon. Just a moment. Yes, about the project. So quickly, this project was aimed at identifying some of the opportunities that DCFTA can offer in relation to the overcoming the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. So the basic works have been carried out in June and July. So mostly it was a semi-structured face-to-face interviews. Sorry, can you turn off your microphone? I hear some of the noises. Yes, semi-structured interviews. Thank you. And we also discussed mostly virtual meetings like this one. And we interviewed mostly Georgian businesses, and also was a key informant, the experts. So up to 50 people were interviewed. And after that, we had a discussion on a validation workshop with private sector representatives and presented some of the results that we are presenting now again. Our main approach, and DBA has done a good job in spreading the word about this survey, and the DBA approached more than 1,000 companies through emails mostly, and some of those directly, and invited them to be to take part in the survey and express their opinion or a concern. And the more as a result, we collected the interviews from those companies who had something to tell us, whether an opinion or a concern. So thanks again for the participation to those who took part. So quickly about what happened during the COVID-19, since the COVID-19 outbreak, especially during the lockdown period in terms of trade with Europe. So the key message here is that the disruption was temporary, but at the same time noticeable. And we hear that in most cases, during the first several weeks, during the lockdown period, export and import in most cases did not stop. And this is a good news. Companies with some difficulties, but we were told that they still continued operations, and they didn't stop trade activities. In case of suspensions, where there were suspensions, it was due to the problems with transportation and logistics. In some cases, there were, of course, demand failure or cancellations of the existing contracts, as well as some companies faced increased prices of inputs. All of those, because of those difficulties, many companies had to adapt and change their basic modes of transportation, which affected their price and period of supply operations. In general, we found that large companies faced less difficulties. They met the pandemic more prepared because of the stocks they had in place, stocks and inventories. And in some very exceptional cases, we've seen that some companies have seen the increase in demand after the lockdown was over, which is of course is an exception, not as a rule. Let's go to the key findings in terms of the role of DCFTA during the pandemic. So our broad theme, let's say, of exploration of this subject was the key question, the key philosophical, let's say, very much discussed question whether DCFTA is more gain or pain. And it's still, this discussion continues until today, and we wanted to get closer to the to put an end to the discussion, or let's say to contribute to the discussion to the positive side. So is DCFTA more gain or more pain, especially for private sector representatives? So we explored several aspects in this regard, and one of the aspects was the CFTA compliance standards, whether it's food safety or work safety standards and so forth. What effect did it have on this year, during the pandemic? And luckily, we found out that the companies who had implemented some of the CFTA compliance standards before the pandemic, they found it easier to mitigate the risks of COVID-19 and to, let's say, adopt and to comply to the regulations that the government of Georgia introduced during the lockdown period for private sector operators. So mostly this effect was because those companies had already in place some of the key structural elements of risk mitigation. They had human and institutional capacities in place. So adapting to the new rules was relatively easy and marginally easy and less painful. They had only to marginally slightly change some of the rules and conditions which they already had in place. For instance, one representative of a food chips producing sector told that they only, in a sense, they had only to purchase a temperature measure just to comply to the list of the requirements that the government of Georgia has. So overall, as a result of this, the pandemic showed that the companies who implemented those standards before pandemic, they were much more in a better shape and much more competitive, and they went out from the lockdown and period more kind of with more advantages. So, and this is a great, let's say, great news and great things to have, because for many years, DCFTA was considered as, and still is considered as a means, and basically it's perceived by the businesses as the purely a means of trading with Europe, whereas in a sense the CFTA can play a very important role in raising overall competitiveness of enterprises, which can be used not only with European markets but also in the domestic market as well as in other markets, and especially in events like this, which we usually call black swan events, which no one expects to have. The role of DCFTA happens to be immeasurable. So this is one of the key findings, and we have some recommendations in this regard by the end of the presentation. We also, there were also the mentions of free trade agreements and diagonal accumulation agreements as the new opportunities. In terms of free trade agreements, as you know, Georgia has a couple of free trade agreements already. And for instance, a couple of years ago, upon signing the China-Georgia free trade agreement, I was involved in a study which revealed the opportunities of big companies operating in China to relocate, who traded with Europe, to relocate their investments and production to Georgia to continue trading with Europe as a key opportunity. And this pandemic again asserted or proved this and made this opportunity even bigger and even more kind of urgent. That if you consider the sentiments towards the negative sentiments towards China and doing business in China in general and trading with China, this is a bigger opportunity for European and not only for European companies who now have operations in China to relocate their production facilities here. However, we should also note that this is a kind of general opportunity which is not directly perceived as applicable to individual companies, and it indicates that there is a great need to identify from the general perceived opportunity to identify some of the specific opportunities which are applicable to individual businesses, which is not done so far. Diagonal accumulation agreements, we hear the progress with Ukraine from the revenue service, which is very good. We also signed a diagonal accumulation agreement with Ukraine, and it is planning to sign a similar agreement with Moldova, and we had signed this a few years ago with Turkey. And this accumulation agreement is a means of diversified input supply and supply sources, which is a very good opportunity for many companies especially who trade with those partner countries from which we already have accumulation agreements. But at the same time, it's not very much known opportunity for Georgian companies. And it's on the contrary, there were some cases in which this was perceived as a negative incentive for Georgian companies, or for the companies to, like, instead of being add value in Georgia, the value-added operations could be shifted somewhere else in this diagonal accumulation partner country. So this again indicates that there is a great need to raise awareness on this topic and reveal some of the specific opportunities for private sector operators. One of the general findings again is that the concept of self-sufficiency or import substitution and less trade generally undermines the whole idea or underlying idea of the DCFTA. So during the pandemic and after that, many countries, including Georgia, have shifted their focus towards self-sufficiency, which in a sense means less trade or more focus on domestic orientation and less export orientation. But if this trend continues and there is a threat that the pandemic, a second wave of the pandemic is underway, then these kind of general perceptions about self-sufficiency and preference over more trade generally is against the value of the CFTA and the general virtues that the CFTA and free trade has in general. So it's a threat. So digitalization and e-commerce as a response, we hear that there is a lot from the Ministry of Economy that there are lots of activities going on in this regard, and I'm happy to hear that the draft legislation is in place, which is timely. We've seen that digitalization was a response to the pandemic, and it was mostly through remote management of the facilities and offices, as well as putting in place or starting new e-commerce operations. In many cases, companies either started their own e-commerce shops or they enrolled to already existing platforms. But at the same time, we found that it's still e-commerce has to do a lot to become in mainstream of activities of the private sector, because once the businesses returned to their usual way of doing business, and which means the offline operations, the pace that the e-commerce had, it's slightly started to slide back, and this is the trend that needs to be sustained, or let's say maintained, if you want to make this as a key channel for Georgian enterprises. Especially one of the chapters of the CFTA is generally defines the conditions for using this as a key trade channel with Europe. However, again, we have some problems with e-commerce, especially for the B2B sectors, and we know that there are some very interesting initiatives from the side of the donors to promote putting individual Georgian companies to the European e-commerce platforms, which is a very, very good, innovative and very important initiatives, and we hope that this continues. But there are lots of obstacles in terms of trading with e-commerce and exporting, especially exporting through e-commerce. It's first of all difficult logistic procedures. In many cases, the warehouse facilities itself is a problem. It's not only in Europe but also domestically in Georgia. For many small companies who want to trade online, they do not have the central facility to distribute their own their products from the central hub. There are some technical problems with supporting payment infrastructure. Generally, those services and bank support services are expensive. So, and generally, there are lots of, let's say, obstacles in this way. And I'm happy that these active steps are taken by the government to adopt a new law and reform the sector further. The opportunities, these opportunities generally, there are none of those in the list that is new to the audience, but this is a general ranking of the perceptions of the opportunities as seen by the businesses in the after COVID-19 era, and this was mostly access to the European market as a key opportunity, and I'm gonna speak one by one as much as I can. So first of all, although the access to the Euro market is important and is scored one of the most important opportunity, this opportunity is mispositioned in the perceptions of Georgian businesses. First of all, for some companies, we found that it is very important, but for others, it's not important at all. And they have some reasons to think so. For some of the companies who traded with Europe before, for instance, under the GSP plus regime, the DCFTA did not make any tangible difference for them, though they continue to trade the way they were before. So the DCFTA as an agreement is not positioned under the overall auspices of, let's say, trade with Europe. And that's why we have to make sure that businesses understand that DCFTA is a part of the bigger, let's say, virtue of a trade with Europe. It's not as a separate, let's say, standing document. For other companies, Asian markets are more of a priority, and those are mostly the companies who produce or offer very commodity type products and services for which they do not have too much competitive advantage or any preferences, let's say, in Europe. It's very hard to compete with those services and products in Europe, and easier to compete in less developed Asian markets. So, for instance, it was like traditional IT services for this, not innovative, but traditional ones. The Asian market is more important, and they do not look at the European market at all. So other opportunities, I will not stop in here. They are important, but I would like to switch directly to the obstacles. But generally speaking, financial and technical assistance and the opportunities from this perspective is very important, especially during the emerging global crisis, and in the circumstances where Georgian businesses need more technical knowledge and qualifications, as well as finances. This is an essential one. Public procurement and participation in European Central Public Procurement System is a very least important opportunity pursued by Georgian businesses. Key obstacles to the CFTA. So first of all, Anne mentioned about this in the introduction, that low qualification of workforce is a big obstacle, and this mismatch, the existing mismatch between the demanded and supplied skills on the market, which is caused by, on a major profession, demanded professions, is a major problem for Georgia's labor market. And mostly it's caused by very unpopularity, let's say, of the vocational education, lack of the highly qualified educational programs in this area, as well as absence of labor market information system, and as well as job anticipation system, which needs to be in place in order to eradicate this mismatch between demanded and supplied skills. Next one is the absence of laboratory infrastructure, and I'm happy to hear from Mariam that Ministry of Economy is also progressing in this regard, but still problems remain, and we were told that small companies face more problems in terms of difficulty and expensiveness of getting some laboratory services. And we also had this case from the fiber producing company during the introduction part, which has a similar same issue of absence of testing infrastructure. Generally, we also, there is a second part of the quality infrastructure aspect. Although there are some laboratory tests could be done in Georgia, but execution or just carrying out inspection or surveillance is a big issue. And for instance, for wine industry, we were told that sometimes the exported shipments they have problems with the quality, although the laboratory tests score fine with some samples. But what is actually sent in export is an issue, and for strategic sectors, export sectors like wine and several others, this is a big threat, and it could destroy the reputation of Georgian exports and the overall competitiveness of it. Access to finance, again, a big problem, especially during the pandemic period. Small companies faced more challenges than the bigger ones. The bigger companies have very good tandem with their servicing banks, whereas the small companies, they face the problems of high interest rates and too many papers requested, the collateral problems, and also the banks became very much cautious and let's say deliberating in assessing the new financing new projects, and this all deteriorated the situation related to access to finance to smaller companies. We also, it should be noted that, and Dominic also mentioned in the introduction, that there are lots of credit facilities that is available through the CFTA supported channels, especially in particular through the banks. But in fact, we were told that those the companies or the final beneficiaries do not receive the full benefits of this opportunity. So this benefit is not transferred from the donor towards the end user or beneficiary in a full sense. So it's again, although available, it's not we are not using its full potential. High cost of adjustment is to the new regulations, again, is an issue for certain industries. It is connected with huge investments, and we had a case from the pharmaceutical sector where adopting the GMP standards is a big hurdle and big financial and administrative burden, and in this regard, this aspect is also covered in our recommendations. Some individual approaches are necessary for different industries and in some cases for different companies. Lack of skill is a, let's say, I would say that this is a cross-cutting, let's say, problem which affects all of the obstacles that are listed already above. Lack of skill because of this difficulty to comply orders, for instance, during the export operations, or to negotiate with the banks or suppliers or the clients. They face proportionally more difficulties than the bigger companies. So if we were to support those companies to scale up, proportionally all of the obstacles that they face in all the above aspects, of course, will disappear. There are other obstacles which I won't want to go through it very detailed. They are all known, but they are not very important in relation to the other important factors, and that I won't stop here in the position paper that we will publish. We mentioned them in more length. So recommendations part. So this recommendation is lays the foundation for our position statement that the EBA is planning to publish, and your inputs, of course, are welcome by the end of this this presentation. So in a summary, EBA believes that the DCFTA can play an important role in overcoming the risks of the pandemic, and this can happen in several directions. However, systemic and coordinated and sector-specific action and approach is needed from all stakeholders to be involved. in order to, first of all, this is the first part of the recommendation, to capitalize on new opportunities that we discussed in this presentation, which the COVID-19 pandemic brought about. Second, it's mitigate the new challenges also caused by the pandemic. These challenges are urgent and they require urgent care correspondingly. And third, it's a continuation of the reforms that the government of Georgia is pursuing, and we hear the very good and lengthy presentation from Mariam from the Ministry of Economy that there are lots of important reforms underway. So to kind of break them those important messages down. So first of all, how to capitalize on new opportunities by the pandemic, and we spoke about the mispositioning of the DCFTA in the perceptions of the businesses. So they perceive DCFTA differently, and as in this picture, that's very slight detail can dramatically change. Adding a slight detail can change how businesses perceive the role of DCFTA. And this should be the message that instead of just a pure means of trade with Europe, DCFTA can play also a greater role, an important role in achieving resilience and sustainability and competitiveness, and especially during such unpredictable events as pandemics. And we did not yet overcome this pandemic, as you all know. Secondly, raising awareness in relation to the diagonal accumulation agreements and the free trade agreements, and in this case, finding the opportunities, that specific opportunities for businesses and specific industries, and showcasing them to businesses is important. And I would also mention that similarly, I mentioned the case of chips producing company. We could use those specific cases and examples as a good example or exemplary case to promote DCFTA's role in and its image generally among businesses and public. And the third, in terms of to make sure that the e-commerce does not, the momentum that e-commerce gained during the pandemic does not slide back, we need to make sure that we have a plan to support this enabling environment for e-commerce, and adopting the new law will play an important part to this. Second, in terms of mitigating the challenges, new challenges. So the access to finance, as we identified, was one of the key, problems that we're of course concerned for the businesses. In order to overcome this, lots of things should be done. First of all, is to work in terms of reducing the overall interest and overall cost of the finances, and this could be done in the medium and the long term by efforts to reduce overall risk rating of the country. But also we should not forget to come up with a very specific financial assistance packages to the sectors and the companies, and especially the sectors who trade with Europe mostly. And we hear that especially those companies lack working capital, and recently I hear that the Georgian banks started to design and to introduce new working capital loans to Georgian companies, and let's hope that those products are very much kind of customized for smaller companies, and it not only benefits the larger ones who already have very good access to finances. And third component of the recommendation is to continue the reforms which aims to reform to kind of to eradicate the obstacles which existed before, the qualification of the workforce and skills mismatch. The government and EU stakeholders should be involved in identification of the skills which are generally required by the market, and promote those educational programs that are aimed at the sectors especially required by the trading sectors. And it is important to rely on the existing recently adopted labor market strategy and continue the reforms in this regard to eradicate this gap and kind of increase the competitiveness of Georgian labor force. Secondly, laboratory service and quality inspections. It will be very useful to support private, although there are lots of tests available already, and there is the accreditation center already approved, which is a good step ahead. But there needs to be more testing of capabilities in the market available for private sector, and in this regard, the government and the donors should support at least support private sector laboratories to offer more diversity of tests and facilitate which will facilitate trade with Europe. And also in terms of the inspections part of the quality insurance, it is also recommended to consider involving an international private sector company organization which specializes in quality checks and inspections. High cost of adjustments. In this regard, the government should work with individual sectors and in some cases individual companies to kind of come up with a customized approximation plan or adjustment plan, which is more actionable and more realistic rather than just push the business towards this difficult exercise. And in terms of lack of skill of enterprises, this is a very complex objective, and it goes back to the different reforms and activities that needs to be pursued in order to facilitate the scaling up of the businesses. And once it's solved and the government has a plan and an systemic approach toward this issue, at least then all of those other issues, as I mentioned, will be easier to solve for companies. That's briefly it. So thank you very much for your attention, and I could take your questions, and we could start the discussion part of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Tengiz. As always, I think the work that's been done here is of the highest possible quality. And there are many insights there that I don't think people will have understood. If there are questions, please could you put your hand up. I know actually that one of the companies referred to just then, the company that make the fruit chips.
Yes, I'm here.
If you're there, yeah, please.
Thank you. I don't have actually questions. I just would like to make a short comment.
And we would love to hear it. Please go ahead.
Regarding importance of certification in general and in particular, let me introduce myself to whom who doesn't know me. My name is Nona Tordia. I'm a owner and director of Gemoani company. We are a processing company for fruits and vegetables using freeze-dried technology. We are known on the Georgian market as the producers of fruit chips. So, and the pandemic, of course, affected us as well, but not really significantly. company, I think that was because the company was certified by IFS. It's one of the highest certification in the certification ranges, I'll say. And we were able to appreciate the importance of certification. We didn't have to do additional investments into an infrastructure development, or we didn't have to adopt huge number of new instructions because everything was already in place. So and of course, after the announcement of the new regulations by Georgian government, of course, we had to react somehow. And in addition to all other internal regulations, which we already had, we just introduced a new document, a very small document on the rules of conduct during a pandemic or epidemic. And only 2 issues had to be added into this document: the temperature control for the employees and limitation of number of personnel per each room or working zone. So this is was only 2 new things we had to adopt for the company during pandemic. And the other thing, it was just, we also decided to introduce a ban on visiting the plant for all persons, except for persons authorized by the state to conduct sanitary or audit checks. That's all we had to do during the pandemic. I just would like to note that the compliance with all these rules is very important, and it's important not only during pandemic, but also in the daily activities for any company. And because these actions significantly reduce potential risks and definitely increase the company's chances to be more competitive in the international market. And of course, if companies, I've heard that some companies don't understand the importance of certifications, and if they do so, it means that they don't care really about the quality, and it's very risky to allow such products to enter the market. Thank you very much, Stem.
Thank you very much, Nona.
Welcome.
It's actually it's great to see the success you're having, because I think the potential of your product is enormous in Europe.
Thank you.
I mean, actually, there isn't anything like that. I mean, like in England, I can't get back to Georgia, and they don't sell this stuff. It's an absolutely open window of opportunity, I think, because it's very popular, and the whole thing with health food and you know, vegetarianism, veganism, this is a massive issue across the whole of Europe right now. Okay, I'm looking around now and scanning to see if there are any other questions. Please put your hand up if you have a question. I have Samsung Erdia here. Samsung, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, please, you have the floor.
Thanks so much for giving me the floor. Just as a representative of the public sector, specifically the same institution, I'm talking about the revenue service. I would like to just thank for this presentation and for this opportunity that allows us to just react. As a matter of fact, we always had in our mind, and we are having in our mind that we should very closely be with business, because here our previous participants highlighted the word compliance. And when we talk about the compliance, it's just not only just we may say task or we may say goal, which should be ensured, can I say, by the state authority or governmental sector. It's like it's really joint venture, and here we always used to say that we are in the one boat, and that just we should help each other. I mean, the public sector and private sector should help with each other to just reach this kind of, we may say, acceptable level of compliance. And in this, and also what I would like to highlight, I fully agree with the presenters that one of the main problems which we also used to identify during our discussions with public sector during the routine, can I say that we do need, we may say, never-ending process of education. And I think that self-education, or we might say, this should be like a never-ending journey. And with this in mind, I would like to thank GIZ because they just did a recently great job. Thanks to GIZ, we created new prototype of our new web page, website of revenue service. It will be available from October, because we have to absolutely restructure all the existing material. And here, one of main part will be this kind of, it will give like education. It will give information more easy way, the more adaptable way to the private sector, how to be in compliance. And I think that there is a kind of big room. And of course, I'm now would like to draw the attention of our donors that we need this more open source educational platform, which will enable private sector to get these skills, get this knowledge, get this, we may say, information about very sophisticated EU legislation, EU procedures. We are of course doing our best to somehow to convert this, we may say, sophisticated regulation into more easier term. But of course, we need more and more collaboration again with private sector. So the role of business association is very key. And of course, I would like to also encourage not only your association, but also other business association to be more active, more proactive, and engage with us also with regard to other, we may say, initiatives. Let me say, we should also, in the coming years, we should accede to the very important convention. I'm talking about the Common Transit Convention of EU, which will enable our transport companies to transport Georgian goods in more easier way, in more simplified way to you. So I think that we need more dialogue and more like this information sharing and exchange. Thanks so much for your attention.
Yeah, Samson, thank you very much for that. We, to be very clear, we're always ready at the European Business Association to partner up with you to try to get more information out into the community. It's very clear that the DCFTA is not understood, the potential is not seen. There's very, very few people talking about it. EBA is the exception. We've been talking about it for 3 years, every day on our very large social media. So any ideas, any concepts you have, we're happy to come over, talk to you, talk to GIZ, talk to whoever, because we truly believe in this. And things like the common transit regulations are going to be essential for logistics companies, and indeed behind them, of course, the exporters. Okay, thank you, Samson. We're getting quite close to the end now. It's quite a session when you're speaking about something at this level of detail, but we do have a little bit of time. If anyone else would like to make a comment before we wind up, please just raise your hand. There you go, Tengiz, you're on.
Yes, I just wanted to take on what Samson said about the information sharing and proactive involvement of the businesses. I agree completely that it's a common headache and a common task. We are in the same boat. And I also agree that the role of the associations is important in this process, and in our draft position paper, the role of the associations is also highlighted, and it's not only BA but sectoral associations should be actively involved, especially in the part where it comes to the showcasing the specific examples and specific success stories, like we had highlighted today in relation to this standards, this food company. So if Georgians businesses see good examples, they will be more actively involved in consuming the information and pursuing the opportunity. This is the role in this is very important for the role of the associations, let me say, is also very important in parallel to the state. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much, Tengiz. Again, if there's anyone in the audience now who would like to make another comment or to ask a question, of course, when this is finished, we'll be publishing our position paper. That will be sent to all our members, to the European embassies and to the government, but also anyone who is watching this. We're a completely transparent organization. If you want some information from us, please just contact us through our social media or send us an email. Can I see anyone's hand up there? Is everything looking like it might close now? Mariam, would you like to just say a few words in closing?
From MFA, I see where is the hand.
Okay, please, MFA, please, there you go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. David Bugiashvili from MFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I'm going to be very brief. What I want to say that we have seen that DCFTA in the context of COVID-19 crisis, and what we have seen that COVID-19 have changed the geopolitical situation. We have seen that relations between the United States, between China, it's as tense as ever been. Everyone is trying to take its investments out of China and are searching for the new markets. I think that Georgia has a comparative advantages in that respect, and we should not invent the wheel, and we should use our advantages. It's a low taxes, low bureaucracy, low level of corruption, also flexible services, and of course, particularly DCFTA. DCFTA that if someone invests in Georgia and invest and do business in Georgia and produce in Georgia and then export your product free of charge without any taxes to the European market. I think it's one of the greatest advantage, and we need to use this advantage. This is one comment, and another point is that what I wanted to say is that we made the comparative advantages with Ukraine and Moldova, and Georgia is doing well in terms of transposing EU acquis, in terms of legal approximation, in terms of strengthening institutions. We are much advanced and outrunning Ukraine and Moldova, but still, in terms of practical benefits, we are not as advanced. So if we see Ukraine's trade turnover, share of the trade with the EU, it's about 45%. Moldova is well over 50%, but it's about proximity. I think it's a reality, is what we are facing. It's about a geographic location of the country. We don't share the direct border with the EU, a land border. We only have enjoy with a sea border. It's with Romania, with Bulgaria, and I think that our primary priority should be to increase connectivity, more ferry lines, more, I don't know, so more connections, direct connections with Bulgaria, with Romania, in order to intensify our trade and to decrease the cost of the transportation. So thank you very much. It's just a brief comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aurelio.
Aurelio, do you have a comment, please? You're muted, Aurelio.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're live.
Okay, first of all, congratulations for the work done. I think it's very important. And my comment is has several nuances. One is that I think Georgia is in a very strategical moment now, also because of the upcoming elections, in order to build up a vision for its own development. Many aspects were mentioned, and also some of the aspects I was about to mention were mentioned by in the last intervention. I would like to emphasize what was just mentioned about the importance of transport infrastructures. So the person before me highlighted the importance of the sea connections with the European Union, Romania and Bulgaria, but also some transport connection inside the Georgian territory are important. For me, it's difficult to believe that to cover the 250 kilometers between Tbilisi and Kutaisi, I would need 4 or 5 hours. And so transport infrastructures are very important because, and connectivity is also the word that I wanted to underline. And the other one that I wanted to mention is that self-sufficiency was before mentioned by Tengo in contraposition with trade, with free trade. And I agree with many of the things that he mentioned. Maybe what we can add is that the COVID crisis urged many governments, including in my own country, in Italy, to focus on self-sufficiency on certain very strategical sectors, for example, related to healthcare or to health products. So I just wanted to say that there should be an equilibrium between self-sufficiency and free trade. A part of self-sufficiency for certain vital products can be important, not to have very, very harsh problems, like it was during the COVID crisis in certain countries. And the last point was that DCFTA is a wonderful instrument that is covering a lot of different aspects that in a way are a little bit non-homogeneous because it's a broad set of topics and sectors. And what is important for Georgia is also to combine the CFTA potentialities with a vision for Georgian development in the next 5 or 10 years. So not reasoning only one year by 1 year, but having a kind of medium-term strategy. And for this, I wish that there would be a high-quality economical debate in the country. And for this, of course, EBA is contributing heavily, and this is a very good aspect that should continue. I cannot hear you.
Thank you, Aurelio. Christian, maybe?
Hi, Christian. Did you want to say something? Did I see your hand there? Christian? Okay, there might be a technical problem there. Okay, look, we are within 5 minutes. We are within 5 minutes. I think we probably had enough.
Hello from
there you go, Christian.
Uzbekistan. Sorry, I didn't put my microphone.
Okay.
And yeah, we have worked in our group of PPD networkers very much with EBA on papers, and we see that there are very similar problems in most countries. I think that there was a great work done with this survey, and for us it's an inspiration also here in our Central Asian region to look into such a survey also for Uzbekistan and now Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan on as we are facing very similar problems of low regional integration and breakdowns in international trade, and those companies who are certified, who are prepared for export, have for sure an advantage. And I think we should push for more of these trainings, certifications, and readiness to work.
Okay, Christian, thank you very much. So we've been all the way from Germany to the UK, through Europe, into Georgia, Uzbekistan, so that's a long way. Okay, look, I think I should close now. It's been a long session. Thank you very, very much. It's very clear that the entire geopolitical situation is changing post-COVID. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about the opportunities as people start to retrench away from China. There's been some great stuff about Georgia's weaknesses, but also about our strengths in comparison to countries like Ukraine and Moldova. The EBA, we work very, very closely with them. And it's quite right that the import from Ukraine is right at about 40% now, 50% in Moldova. But I see this, or the EBA see this, as an opportunity, not as a problem. Yeah, we're slightly behind, but there are reasons for that, the Black Sea. And we can get over that because in many ways we're stronger than it. In particular, with the amount of our, with the high profile that it has in Georgia, and the percentage of the population that really do want to get closer. We have the highest rating. I'm now going to hand over to close to the chairman, to John. I'd like to say thank you to the team, in particular to Marion, Nini, who've done a huge amount of work to put this project together. And of course, the work that's actually been done on the survey for us by TBSC. Thank you. John.
Before closing, I would quickly go for 2 minutes, Dominic, to have a closing remark also from the European.
Great, Dominic's here, thank you.
Dominic, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Okay, thanks, John. Yes, no, just to thank everyone for their contribution to the discussion, and also thanks a lot for this interesting presentation and study. So we are really then looking forward to the extended version, to the position book paper. I think it's very important that the EBA, with the support of the GIZ, that you are ready to collect, to form collective opinions and take positions in these crucial times. So that is very helpful and important for us for then doing the policy response on the EU level, but also for our partners in the Georgian government. So thanks a lot everyone for contributing to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dominic. On this note, I thank everybody for the participation of today, and I'm closing the meeting of today. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.